The intrigue continues within Dagyuan Yuan. As for what Dante and the Damned doesn't make of it, well, let's go into that. Then Jia Xichun and his forces left Ojiguan Banquet Hall to assess the situation with the farm, leaving only Dante and the Damned Dozen there. Ortis reminded them all that remains for them to do is to retrieve the golden bower that was owed to them. Once they do that, the mission is done, and they can wait for the after team to extract them, telling them that none of them would know, let alone understand what a war of the wings is like. To rush out into the unknown waters that was ahead of them was nothing short of imprudence. They must not entertain that idea. Well, Gregor might understand, as he fought in the Smoke War. Don Quixote told her that if their strength prevents this war and saves many innocent lives, then she wishes to get involved, as Jia Xichun suggested. Ortis didn't think so, believing that it would be in their best interest not to get involved. She spoke plainly. Yes, as the second kindred blood fiend has regained some sense of how the world works. War is not just another incident or a quest to be resolved. Her sense of justice may shine like a beacon in times of unrest, but war will crush and grind into the dirt indiscriminately, as it does any life caught under its boot heels. Don Quixote knows this better than you do, as she fought in the Blood Fiend War against other Blood Fiends. Don Quixote made this quite clear. She saw Jia Xichun's path as that of justice, so he has her support. This royally Ortis off, as she's still so... Don Quixote was quite serious, telling her that to fight for the pursuit of justice doesn't deserve her scorn or ridicule. It wasn't a short-sighted tantrum. It was an adherence to and pursuit of a certain responsibility of those who can. Ortis didn't know what to say about this. Then Gregor reminded her that he's had his fair share of war as well. He sees battles and wars as not the same thing. She can't see the crushing waves of intense emotions in battles when looking as if it was a great flow of war. That built up pressure is what becomes the flow, not the other way round. Ortis was silenced by these words, and Yisang added his views on this. That Jia Xichun wished to convey to them that certain forces are beginning to attack, that the fractures must be filled before they rupture. He understood that their words might contrast one another. The intent that pushed both of them to speak was shared. War mustn't be allowed to continue farther than it already has. Ortis understood that it has started. Gregor thanked Yisang for summing that up. Methot observed that Ortis' assessment would have been correct had the discussion concerning their participation been about a war that had already progressed beyond a certain degree. However, accepting Jia Xichun's suggestion and preventing the war from expanding beyond the localized skirmishes would bring greater results even, than avoiding it. Then Rodya, still feeling like... She's still feeling like a communist and all, but Name believed that it could give them the opportunity to destroy and uproot all the iniquities of Hongguan. But then she admitted that she didn't know if that's what Honglu wants. Sinclair was concerned about Jia Xichun. He and his people might be strong, but they might be overwhelmed by numbers, asking if they have a chance of dealing with all of them. Ishmael was then honest. They simply didn't know. They also don't have time to meticulously analyze every facet of the situation. Yisang paused for a moment before addressing Dante. It's clear that they lack a common ground. He might have a narrow vision, but not a single one of them has insight that was born solely of their emotions. The reasoning is sound behind their suggestions. It's difficult to gauge the validity of any of them. It wasn't an easy decision, but, well... Yisang paused in order to choose his words carefully. He advised leaving the decision to Honglu. Dante let him continue his explanation. Yisang fears that he might have overreached. However, if they allow this opportunity to slip away, Honglu might never leave that smile of his behind. This surprised Dante that Yisang noticed this, which Yisang made clear. It was apparently the smile that was of a different shape of sorrow for those who have no tears left to shed. After that, Dante had a decision to make, one that supported the team. They asked Faust, but she had nothing to offer but objective information and suggestions strictly from the corporate perspective. Given their position, it was recommended that they follow the plan outlined by the 4 team, retrieve the golden bar and arrange a safe extraction for them without getting involved in a high-risk operation not given by Limbus Company. This wasn't entirely unsurprising to Dante. Faust then added that there was more, which did surprise Dante. Faust told them that if they believe that they possess enough persistence to endure all that it entails and their role to lead them to the right path, then she will follow them. Dante thanked Faust. As for what Honglu had to say about this, he noticed that things really got out of control. He apologized to Dante. Dante then inquired about his dialogue with Jia Xichun. That conclusion didn't come out of nowhere. Something clearly brought him to that. Dante understood that this long conversation that he had with Jia Xichun, which involved some fighting, that Jia Huan wisely decided not to interrupt. Honglu was finally able to give an answer of his own. The biggest reason for that was Honglu said that first he wasn't able to say it, but suddenly, like a thick fog clearing, something emerged from the haze of forgotten memories past. What he gave was an answer that was something, and he realized what it was only after it had left his mouth. That word must have been buried deep within him for a long time. Dante realized it was kindness, because Honglu wanted to believe that it was enough, that it could truly bring change to Hongguan. Dante told him that it's not about them, it's about him and Hongyuan's future. So they'll leave that decision up to him. Dante understood that Honglu was never the type to clearly state his beliefs. He usually obeyed without question, without complaint. He didn't speak of pain when he suffered, nor did he cry from agony. His eyes remained unshaken, even as he witnessed the countless deaths and injustices committed before him. The eye that let everything float away. The accepting eye of someone who has resigned himself to the reality that everything that exists has an end. They patiently waited for him to speak, and he wanted to go to Teikan Temple, where Jia Xichun and the Xianren were. He believed that she might be in danger. Dante asked if that meant that her life was, might be at risk. Honglu denied this. Her life might be the only thing that isn't in danger. He thought back to what Jia Xichun said. He's afraid that he might lose the Jia Xichun that he knows forever, implying that what might happen to her is a fate worse than death, because at least death gets it over with. This was the first time he spoke of the path that he wished to walk. He gazed beyond the walls of Dagyuan Yuan. Honglu confirmed Jia Xichun's words. Only he can be the one that freely opens the gates of the Taikan Temple. He wants to be there to watch Jia Xichun become the hierarch, so that if something dangerous was to happen, he can stop it. Dante saw that as a plan. Urti suspected that this would be Dante's decision. Their judgments were shaped by their upbringings and environments, while Dante's was only based on their experience since District 4. Dante asked if she kept being disappointed by them. Urtis replied by saying that she wasn't. Not yet. Heathcliff added that it didn't match their style to sod off after picking up the golden bar. Ishmael didn't dispute that. Gregor made it clear that he might have come across as harsh or snappy earlier, but he asked if there was any hard feelings between him and Urtis. Urtis made it clear that if his speech was senseless drivel, she would have kicked him in the shin. Gregor found that funny as she didn't do that. Dante could see that they were growing familiar with each other. They then told them that they should do this. Jia Xichun made it clear that Zilu will be sent out in that direction, making her own way to where they're going. Heathcliff reminded him that the Haishu have become masterless. Jia Xichun made it clear that Zilu is an exception. Ishmael asked what about him. His priority was stopping the Sotocapo and his capo, Lei Heng. He and Zigong will take to the main battlefield at the gates of Dagyuan Yuan and stall them. They all did their parts. Nothing more was needed to be discussed. Zigong had seen that smile many times in the past. The smile of a hollow shell. Does he think that Honglu was capable of moving in genuine dedication to a cause? Jia Xichun believed that each heart had a different cause that moved them. Who can speak of the fathoms of a lake when all they've seen is the water's surface? Zigong had no response to that. Honglu clearly cares deeply about his sister. One that didn't even try to kill him, even though he told her that she could. Which was the most hurtful thing that she could ever hear from him, considering that she kept checking up on him. Ever since the slaughter of the Kong family traumatized him into being a shut-in. He doesn't want her to experience a fate that would make death seem merciful and kind by comparison. Otherwise, he wouldn't see anything to worry about. Honglu told them that they had to go through there, after leading them somewhere. They had to go through there if they wanted to take the fastest path to Taikan Temple. Dante saw that it looked like it led underground. Gregor questioned if this was the fastest path, and then asked what they were doing there. It was clear to Heathcliff that they were blocking their way. Dante didn't think that this would be easy, and they were right. As the Shi family mercenary told them to turn around and leave. They won't get a more generous offer than that. They'd do well to do as they said. Ishmael told them that the family hierarch war was over. The results were announced, asking whose orders were they attacking them. The Shi family Mercenary saw her as naive, asking, does she not know that powerful forces were already gathering there? He doubted that Jia Xichun even got to meet the Zanran. She's probably bleeding out somewhere along the path by now. This alarmed Sinclair. The Shi family mercenary saw them as a bunch of third races working together, asking if they truly think that they could retake the hierarch with their small numbers. Ishmael told them that they're the ones committing that tantrum of a treason because they couldn't accept that they lost. She then asked, what do they mean, retake the hierarch? They never took her from them. Uudis pointed out that they can't even proudly speak the name of their master. That would have been the first thing they would have announced if they believed that their cause was just. Their actions were that of a thief. The Shi family mercenary didn't see it as necessary to speak of this to a ragtag band like hers. He ordered the others to destroy them all. They learned the hard way that they're much stronger than they appeared, and were more quality than quantity. After subduing their enemy, Uudis saw that their master was actually quite pathetic based on how the minions behaved. They had no hope of ever taking that throne. They'd be surprised by how a lack of a just cause can harm morale. That Shi family mercenary thought that she was one to talk, asking what cause did she have? How high and mighty was her? Heathcliff told him to shut it. At least they want to change something about that place. Theirs is more a just cause than those whose only thought upon hearing that awful bell was, how can I expand my real estate this time? I can see the recruitment of the Eurodivia in District 8 would explode, considering that Dagyuan Yuan has it all. And even that isn't enough. While those below them worry if they're going to lose space, assuming that they don't get thrown out and fall to their deaths without warning. Then the Shi family mercenary collapsed. Honglu saw that Uudis and Heathcliff both spoke with such conviction. Uudis saw that gathering an army was an easy part of a conflict. The leader's true qualities are revealed only when the time comes to actually lead it. Honglu understood this to mean that her long experience with war has shaped her confidence. She silently confirmed this. Honglu's experience before he joined Limbus Company couldn't be any farther from any battlefield war. Either that or he was just surrounded by wars and he was just sheltered from them. There was certainly intrigue, part of that involving assassination attempts. He'd done nothing but watch from a distance, so he has no right to speak about that. He wouldn't know where to begin. This made Uudis fall silent. Heathcliff didn't see it as complicated. If it's no thinking twice needed, implying that it's what Sinclair does. Sinclair questioned this. Honglu has never walked down that hallway accompanied by so many other people. He usually walks alone. Rodia wanted to know why not. Didn't he bring servants with him? Sometimes he did, because he was scared to go there alone. But he learned something as he grew older, that his heart was more at ease when walking down that road alone. Dante wanted to know why. Dante imagined Jia Bayu slowly walking down that hallway alone with a dark expression. It wasn't a pleasant thought. Honglu told them that Taikan Temple, he was the only one who was allowed to freely enter and exit. The family hierarch can technically be let inside, but even Jamu couldn't enter without them summoning her. Gregor was surprised that Jia wasn't being Weren't they some supernaturally enlightened blokes? Honglu certainly thought so. According to him, they endured a time of suffering, opened their eyes to the secret of freedom from aging and death, and eventually attained enlightenment, earning the exalted title of the Zanren. Radia asked if it's even possible. What happened to them still searching for the answer to true immortality? Honglu had no answer to that. Heathcliff noticed that he's been keeping it in again. This made him nervous, asking what they're walking into. Sinclair noticed that it was more tranquil there. It even smelled nice. He could almost forget that there was a war about to break out beyond Daguan Yuan. Honglu pointed out that they're fortunate that not many know the actual path there. It meant less chance of them running into any outside forces there. Roger would prefer that he didn't do any foreshadowing. As they descended towards the temple, Dante found out that this was indeed a foreshadowing. Podé assailants of the Zui family appeared before them. One of them demanded that Honglu speak of who his master was. What was he doing there? Honglu responded simply that he had a place to be. He's asking what they're doing there. The Zui family captain believed that he was working for Jia Xichun, that he was trying to visit the revered Xianren to speed up the hierarch ascension ritual. Well, all except that first bit was right. Urtis asked if they're just going to reveal their plans if they asked the right questions. She could see that they were lost. They've probably been going in circles for hours. The Zui family captain confirmed this as the place was irritatingly huge, telling them to point them in the right direction and go back the way they came, and they would pursue them. To give up their ridiculous idea of ushering in that hopelessly inadequate girl as the family hierarch, referring to Jia Xichun. Ishmael told them that they've already heard that one before, they need new material. So they fought the Zui family mercenaries, and it went incredibly badly for those mercenaries. After that fight, Urtis demanded that he tell her who his master was. He observed Urtis and Gregor, understanding that they've been in a war. She saw no need to deny this. Gregor was surprised by the Zui family captain being able to tell that. Urtis also spoke of how much she learned in her war. A few hundred ways to convince a grunt to talk. Unfortunately for her, the Zui family captain had other ideas, as he had one way to keep his mouth shut. He then stabbed himself in the chest without hesitation. Yes, without hesitation, he committed harakiri. Urtis saw that he'd rather kill himself, not hesitating to do so to protect his master's name, seeing that master of his as a formidable individual. Honglu suspected that it might have been the influence of a suicide worm. Yes, a suicide worm, or an ananda worm that activates on an information trigger to manipulate the host's psyche to take their own life. Dante saw that Honglu's look was unusually serious. They then moved forward. Then, as they walked through the passageway to Taiken Temple, Gregor saw something up ahead that was shooting at them. It was from Sodatos, who saw them approaching. The Sodato second was one of them who made it clear that this was a warning shot. The Sodato third heard him use profanity under his breath. Urtis knew who and what they were. Apparently, the Sodato second lied to his senior, and this was disrespectful, and in the thumb, this was highly frowned upon. The Sodato second apologized, begging for assistance in their absolution. The Soldato Third told the Soldato Second to present their tongue, proceeding to rip it out. This was incomprehensible to Dante, but this was standard procedure to the Fum. This was disgusting to Rudyard. She openly made it clear that they are dealing with the Fum. The Soldato Third asked them to allow him to speak, as the other one was unable to do so. They may not pass beyond that area. Sinclair noticed that they spoke of Jia during this. Uoti's understanding that they're treating him as a member of a noble family, the Jia family to be more precise, rather than the, well, part of Limbus company, which meant that he likely outranks them as a member of a prestigious house. Sinclair asks if Honglu can ask them to move. Heathcliff sees respect is not making any difference. They won't let him through. Ishmael heard stories about them, but they didn't think that they'd be this fixated with ranks and hierarchies. It's almost to the point where it's weird. That's probably been quite kind. The Soldato Third asked Honglu to understand that the underboss ordered them to treat anyone passing that area as the enemy, to execute all attempting to do so, including their former allies. So he advised them to turn around and leave that place, greatly appreciating their cooperation. Honglu couldn't do that, so the Soldato was forced to stop them by any means. Ryushu understood that Lei Heng set the ambush up. She was as they were prepared. They weren't going to accept any other result than what they had in mind anyway. This was considered disrespectful due to Limbus Company's standing and their department's position within their organization, likely being lower than a Soldato Third. As he saw, mentioning Lei Heng's name is a crime punishable by the removal of her tongue. No, it's the crushing of her lower jaw. Ryushu said IF, or insolent fool. She didn't expect the Soldato to know his place. He doesn't have enough tongues to lose for that disrespect. Uotis understood that they're not getting anything out of them. They'd jump off a cliff if their superior told them to. Ishmael asked if that's her favourite kind of people. Uotis once used to think highly of their strategic decision to maintain a rigidly stratified hierarchy system, but now she sees that it was never a strategic decision, but a brainless obsession of idiots who refused to decide for themselves. This made the Soldato Third threaten to cut off her tongue. As a certain dwarf from the works of George R. R. Martin would put it, when you move someone's tongue, you're not proving them a liar. You're simply revealing to others that you're afraid of what they might say. The Soldatos of the Thumb, they were certainly welcome to try and inflict grievous bodily harm on Limbus Company, and they certainly did try, but they were unable to overcome the damned dozen, because while their damage can be undone due to time inversion, the Soldatos don't. As for the Soldatos in the east, they're different to those in the south. They use firearms that can allow them to use ammo to enhance their melee attacks, inflicting a mix of burn and tremor, where the more of it there is, the more coin power they had. They can reload while blocking, which enhances the block. The more burn and tremor is on the attacker, and they can also inflict more damage next turn. They gain attack power and damage buffs if they trigger tremor bursts with one of their attacks. They deal 10% more damage to staggered enemies, and tremor is inflicted on a clash win. They also gain clash power up if one or more ally of theirs is defeated. They're weak to slash and strong against piercing. Rodia, forgetting the ruins of the Kong family's building, questioned if they're still underground. Yet it looks like they're outside. Yisang saw it as an artificial light that could be confused for a real sun. Dante assumed that they should be getting pretty close. Then Faust alerted them to someone that has beaten them to it. Dante saw that there was a small hill in front of the bridge leading to Taikan Temple. Honglu recognized them as Jia Xichun's mercenaries. That small hill was a pile of mangled bodies, broken to the point where they couldn't even tell how many were there. At the top of the hill sat Wei Heng, and the heavily wounded figure in front of him was... Sinclair identified him as Wei, who understood that they don't seem to meet in fine circumstances. Ishmael asked what happened. Wei Heng saw them as slower than molasses in winter. He was having some fun before they all decided to show up. He wanted to sit there until the ascension rituals wrapped up. Ryushu had a look in her eyes of someone that wanted to chop off his head. Ishmael asked what he was doing there. Massault saw a flaw in the plan. The plan being to leave Wei Heng to Jia Xichun to deal with him in the battlefields. Yes, at the battlefield rather, by the front gate of Daguan Yuan, as he's actually right in front of them. Faust understood that they saw through his strategy. Yes, no plan survives first contact with the enemy. Otis saw that sending Zilu alongside them was an insurance in case that happened. And then Zilu appeared. She was covered in blood, but it was clear that the blood wasn't hers. Wei Heng didn't see this as something that was coming. That there was two ways to get in there. One's a secret entrance, but that rabbit hole that she crawled through seemed pretty narrow. Well, Zilu is a Haishu. Same rules don't apply. He then decided to take the saying had he known that there was a direct passageway, he'd have taken that instead of going all the way around that maze of a palace, asking if they don't have a map. It'd be embarrassing to get lost at his age. He asked if they said hello to the boys out there, likely referring to the Sodatos that they killed. Otis made no attempt to hide this, telling him that they sent them on their way to the afterlife, understanding that it was him that set the ambush up. He told them that they're new to this. They had much to learn. He'll give them a stern talking to. That's awfully lenient for a thumb capo. Ishmael assumed that he's also there at someone else's behest, either to prevent the hierarch ascension or to delay it as much as possible. Yes, as long as possible even. Wei Heng originally intended to catch Jia Xichun before she went into the temple, but he was too late for that. That was it. He wasn't going to make a big statement. Ishmael didn't think that his mission had already failed. He certainly didn't think so. She has to head back to the main house and sit on the throne to wrap up her ascension. He intends to wait for her to leave the temple to prevent that. Ishmael understands that the Haishi won't be mobilized until she physically sits on the throne. Then Wei Heng remembered something. The concept of manners seems lost on them. Then Ishmael remembered that he was part of the fun. He saw that as disrespectful of them to speak to him like he's on the same level as them. Then Honglu had something to ask, and Wei Heng saw that he had enough status to talk to his face without making things awkward. So He's on the same level as a capo. He allowed it. Honglu asked if there was a reason why Wei wasn't killed yet. The setup that he had made him think that he'd like for them to negotiate. This amused Lei Heng, as that implied that they're on even ground, finding it funny of Limbus Company to call it that. Yet they're not wrong, but he doesn't know how important Wei is to them. He's still breathing, but he's not sure if that's any good for a negotiation. He's a former Haishu adept, but if he can't do that, well, much, it doesn't mean much. Believing that he has a curse on him, Zilu told him to speak, asking what does he want. Dante heard her voice. It was so deep, cavernous and sincere that it gave the impression that she'd give him whatever he wanted to secure Wei. This was convincing enough to get him into the mood, so he wants Zilu, who was silent at this. Ishmael asked if he wanted Zilu to die for... Lei Heng said no. He's not that shameless. Otis was unsure of what he wanted. Lei Heng wanted to cut her up, just one slice. If she can take a single cut, he'll hand over Wei, regardless of what she does after, should she survive. Taunting her, asking her not to look at him like that, it's how it is. He's been in the business long enough to know. He loves fair fights, duels, but currently, it's not something he can do. They're both hired guns. They do what their clients tell them to do. He called Zilu Honey Bunny, and didn't fancy the odds of a direct counter. Ryushu didn't see the head has changed. Thankfully, he didn't seem to take it personally. He told Zilu that he'll cut her in half, guaranteed, having known what the capabilities are. Ryushu was then telling him to admit it. He just wants to kill her. Assuming if his tongue was getting tired of being a part of him. Lei Heng didn't pay much attention to her, asking Zilu if she was one of Jia Qiu's students, using a strange technique using the power of Xin, an energy projection technique which can make her as tough as augmentations when it's converted to light rings around body parts or weapons called Mang. Yes. Virgilius knows that. He used it against a docent of the ring 18 months ago. And even then, he was holding back. As he implied that it's not the most he was capable of using, and this was before he manifested his EGO, which was capable of countering a second kindred blood fiend. Other users include Lion, Panther, and Wolf at the start of Dante's story, along with Demian and the Indigo Elder. I wouldn't be surprised if Iori the Purple Tear knows it as well, if the animal-themed enemies learned it from her. From how it was described, the user has to clean the mind of all emotions and then tap into intense memories and allow the emotions that those memories trigger to fill the head. The user will need to learn to control this in order to use more advanced applications of this. Demian, not being human, was able to use 7 Mang and bisect Chroma he's able to bisect her as if she was made of tofu. Lei Heng learned how to do this and wanted to test it out. He's learned how to make 1 Mang. He wants to test it to see how hers compare to his, saying this with a easing grin. Zilu considered this. Dante doubted that she'd risk herself for any of them, They barely knew each other, never mind close. They can't have her risk her life for them, even considering that Lei Heng isn't messing with them, as he's fought many and yet he's still intact. Wei was struggling to speak, but it was clear to Dante that he accepted that he's likely to die there. He only needed Jia Xichun to be safe. He saw this as entirely his fault, as he didn't pay attention to his surroundings. When he's gone, she won't have anyone, asking them to keep her safe. He wasn't begging for his life. He was asking them to look after Jia Xichun. Then Zilu asked, is Wei important to him? Asking Honglu. Dante didn't think that Wei was important to Honglu. Wei was a loyal follower to Jia Xichun. That was it. They also didn't interact much. But he cares about Jia Xichun. He didn't want her to shed any more tears. He saw enough of that since the annihilation of the Kong family. Dante didn't think that they could cut him off like that. They've grown to care more about him. They learned that he was a former Haishu and also about Jia Xichun. They were happy to meet the two, wanting them to feel the same, not wanting either to die. And they were the first allies that they met, by their own choice, even if it was short-lived. Letting him die would add to their regrets. They'd have let someone down again. Every time they met Zod, they were reminded of this. Likely due to losing Effie. They'll blame themselves, resent their weakness, stop. Rather, not stop thinking how they could have prevented that, if they were stronger. The damned dozen had died and killed countless times just to get to that point, but death is something that they can never get used to, especially witnessing the deaths of those that stay dead. Zilu told Lei Heng to speak. Dante knew that they couldn't save everyone. They've seen enough dying to know that. Wei isn't special, and Dante wasn't making a promise to never let anyone remotely close to them die again. Honglu, on the other hand, wanted Wei to live, and he didn't want Jia Xichun to be sad when they met again. Zilu was silent at this. Honglu knew that Zilu had no reason to listen to him, but then Zilu agreed, not letting Honglu finish what he was about to say. She strode up to Lei Heng, striking her blade into the ground as a show of force and a challenge to the thumb capo, leaving her sword in the ground. She told Chachihu, Jiantui Star, the winged tiger, to cut her down. Lei Heng accepted this challenge from Mei Zhelan, Tianzhu Star, the unrestrained. Ishmael didn't understand what was about to happen. Flame bursted out from his sword, which reefed around his intimidating padaio, rising into a raging pillar of fire before a single ring of light materialized around it. On the other hand, a warm, comforting light radiated and shimmered from Zilu's body, likely focusing on defense. Lei Heng, capo of the thumb, one of the 10 blades of the East, vowed to cut Zilu down with all his might. Zilu asked if he was going to cut her down with his tongue. Lei Heng would show her that he intended to cut her down with a clearly custom weapon. Definitely not standard issue for the thumb, likely allowed for those who have made it with their own pay, if they can find a workshop that can make it. And as it has been already established, there aren't that many workshops that can even make firearms. Anyway, Zilu asked, well, she would not get a chance to complete that sentence, as Zilu was then charged at by him, and one diagonal slash later, Dante felt the wind pressure and the heat from that, powerful enough to push some of them back, but Zilu was still standing, alive but wounded. Lei Heng made it clear that he wasn't going for the head, but he was surprised that she survived that hit. He was impressed by how good Xin was. It made his hand tingly. He didn't see it as invincibility. She was barely hanging on after all. Yes. After that, blood burst from Zilu. The moment that Lei Heng said this, and this was concerning to Hong Lu. He had to catch her to stop her fall. He asked, why did she? Zilu said that it was because it sufficed, the reply he gave. That he didn't wish for the one that he cared deeply for, well, to be sad. Well, this is what she sees as true humanity. The true humanity that she learned, her path of justice, her humanity. She'd leave the rest to Clock or Dante, who was surprised, slightly, to be called that by an outsider. Lei Heng ruined this moment by being glad to get the annoying bunny out of the way. He was a man of his word, and she knew it. It's why she let that happen. He kicked way in their direction. He believed that it would take 3 to 4 months recovery for him to be back to full strength. And this is assuming that it's unassisted by any bullets. He added that it's providing that they survive him that day. Understanding that they intend to take Hong Lu and open the door. He made it clear that if they have to go through him to do that, believing that he'll be done with them by the time the ritual is complete, he then said, "Let's dance." Hong Lu starts this fight with an effect called My Heart, My Own Thoughts, which grants him 2 EGO resources of whatever sin affinity his attack uses. And if Ryushu is deployed, she'd have the effect Mutilated Memory, which deals the turn count times 2.5 more damage each turn, up to 30%, likely because it's personal for her. As for how he fights, he initially attacks with tremor-inflicting slashes. The final power of his attacks increases by 2 at most, based on the sum of the target's burn and tremor. He's weak to gluttony and envy, but strong against lust, sloth, and physical. He also won't stay at minus 45 SP for long, and will heal by at most 30 SP after being panicked. He takes less damage from the status effects. When he consumes a Tiger Mark round, a round that is used by the Thumb in the East. However, if he doesn't have them, it doesn't cancel the attack, rather. It doesn't inflict burn. He also inflicts tremor. That's 1 plus, clash count divided by 3 counts. At the start, he has a severing slash effect, which makes all weak to slash. He'll also heal 5 SP for every 10 missing HP on himself. The prey status is inflicted against the target that dealt him the most damage last turn. If that target is staggered, all will lose 10 SP and gain 1 clash power down for 2 turns. If that target is defeated, then the effect will activate again. If the attack is unopposed, it means 30% more damage will be inflicted, and fragile will be inflicted as well. If an attack uses Tiger Mark rounds, 20% more damage is inflicted and 2 defense level down is also inflicted. This doesn't apply if defending. If he uses a powerful attack, he'll gain overheat next turn equal to the number of times those attacks were used, up to 5, which lowers clash power and fragile is inflicted equal to the amount. He'll heal SP equal to the speed value. This doubles if SP is less than 0, and he'll get slash damage up, based on speed divided by 3, up to 5. This won't activate if he has 3 or more bind. And if that happens, he'll gain defense level down equal to the bind, up to 9. It turned out that no matter what they did, he was much stronger than Ricardo was, to the point where he was simply too strong for them to overpower any of his attacks. Wei Heng was mockingly asking them, was that everything they had? Dante could see that he was overwhelmingly powerful. This was the power of a capo of the Fum, and one of the 10 blades of the East. They knew they lacked the power to defeat him yet, especially with him coming at them with murderous intent. Ryushu saw that sword was just as enticing as always. Dante thought back to one of their previous battles. First kindred Don Quixote of La Mancha Land. He was more powerful than Wei Heng. They could sense that there was too large a gap between the two. They're struggling against him so much more, because unlike that blood fiend, Wei Heng was actually trying to kill them. His jock their manner seemed to imply to him this was just another day at work. He's not messing around. He's there to kill them all. That made much more of a difference. He was superior to them in many ways: physical strength, experience, and skill. He also has powerful armor, his suit being deceptively durable, and his weapon. This made him a wall that stood between them and Jia Xichun, if they could somehow fight on equal ground. Honglu then asked what they should do next. He asked this in a slightly exhausted voice, but he was still smiling. This was strange. He'd never been the first one to ask questions or share his opinions with the rest of them. He'd reply to others' questions or share a few detached opinions when they had problems, but Honglu, Dante wanted to ask him something. And this was a bad time to do so, but it needed to happen. It was a burning question that they needed to ask. Why did Honglu ask that? Or rather, what they're asking is, whatever they're throwing at him doesn't seem to be working. While they can keep bringing them back, Honglu knows what they meant, but they don't really know why they asked. While this was odd, his expression didn't seem confused or complicated at all. His eyes carried that sense of freedom of someone looking far off into the distant horizon. He felt the window open, slightly ajar, in a dark, stuffy room. Muffled voices had finally found a place to go, and a pleasant breeze had drifted through his room. It carried him away to somewhere else, little by little. His eyes focused on Dante. Maybe the wind was why he became curious of their thoughts, and why he asked them about them. Dante was unsure. They didn't know what to do anymore. They didn't know what more could they do to get past that monster. Honglu asked, when they said that they wanted him to make a decision, did he expect that it would be difficult? Dante didn't, not like that. Honglu then asked if they thought that this task would be nothing more than a breeze. Dante replied with, "Of course not. It certainly hasn't been with the rest of the main missions." Honglu then said that despite that, they gave him a chance to choose anyway. Dante told him that it was because they had faith it was the right thing to do. They then realized something. Honglu found this slightly amusing, as they already knew. Dante didn't know what he was talking about, but his choice was correct. It's why Honglu told them that even if they felt lost, even if they're not sure of their options now, he had faith that they'd be able to find a different path. It's why the gentle breeze whispered to him as it tickled his back. It's why Honglu trusted him. Well, trusted them, rather. This caused a golden bar resonance and unlocked a new power. This was called Morositas. Dante said, "Under mercy, all shall be made equal." Lei Heng didn't know what was going on. Dante said that by entering a contract with them. All of the damned dozen's strength was all raised up or dragged down to a similar level, despite the disparity before that. If they're in an unfair fight, all they needed to do was level the playing field, where Lei Heng didn't understand what happened. It kept it interesting for him. He understood enough that it brought him down to their level. He saw it as unfair, but he understood why they did that. He then continued with the fight. Honglu then asked if Dante had decided what they wanted to do. And they did. It was time for round 2. Also, anyone notice the icons? They're surprisingly similar to that of the departments of the library, where the Tree of Life was being built from above this time. This might be significant, but then again it might be coincidence. From this point onwards, all of those currently fighting will be affected by Chesed's Mercy, which averages the offensive and defensive level of all units in combat, including Lei Heng. It will also give 3 offense level up and 6 defense level up for the rest of the battle. It won't affect Dante's ability use for the day, and Lei Heng's attacks will also use Tiger Mark rounds, which adds burn to the tremor inflicted, which can also cause tremor burst in some cases. He loses Tiger Mark rounds and 10 SP if he loses a clash, depending on the attack, and with the Unbreakable attack, if the clash is lost, it will reduce the tremor inflicted, stop converting amplitude conversion into tremor, scorch, and not trigger tremor burst. The attack that uses inner strength will increase the amounts that are attacked up to 2. But if he loses the clash, he gains power down, 1 paralyze and deals 80% less damage, and the burn and tremor inflicted is halved. He'll also reload ammo while blocking. A similar attack will also increase damage by 50% if there's enough inner strength. He also has a clashable counter where he loses a Tiger Mark round if he loses it. He reloads and attacks with a mix of tremor and burn. He'll reload Tiger Mark round and gain a new pattern at 90% HP or less, and at 80% HP or less, or at the end of the 4th turn, a new attack pattern will be used. He'll use a powerful attack every 3 turns, which grants 10 more minimum or maximum speed. If he drops to 60% or less, however, he'll use a powerful attack and change patterns, gaining Unrelenting Spirit, which gives him 1 damage up and power for every 20% of missing HP, up to 3 each. He'll inflict 2 more tremor and will deal speed difference times 5% more damage, up to 20%. The last coin of one of his attacks will become unbreakable as well. He also has the Savage Tiger Mark round, which is even more effective, and he summons 2 Sadatos who supplies them. Well, he's supplied by them with this when he runs out. At 40% or less HP, he has a more powerful attack which gains 15 more min and max speed. He has extreme strength and Unrelenting Spirit Shin, which grants him 1 damage up and power up for every 15% missing HP, inflicting more tremor. At 20% HP or less, it's revealed that he was holding back. He then took a hit of nicotine from his death twig. He was unimpressed that he was pushed that far. He then unleashed a finisher, telling Yoshihide, or Ryushu, She should have unsheathed that sword if they wanted to win. He then completed his finish and dealt a devastating attack to defeat the damned dozen. Honestly, how dangerous is that sword if Lei Heng said that he would have possibly lost if that was used against him? Was Ryushi holding back as well? It looks grim, but it'd be a terrible end to the story if it ended there. Until next time. Hail the rabbit!